Actually, doing any form of training, like fitness training for a six pack, I would say is overrated. That's where a lot of misconception lies, is by doing crunches or core exercises like planks. Um, and that's because then growing your muscle
Hey,
this much when
yeah,
you have this much fat
yeah.
is irrelevant. So why are you wasting all that time and energy doing something that is going to yield almost zero outcome for you? It doesn't make sense. So that's why I'm saying training the abs is overrated if your goal is for a six pack.
And welcome to another episode of Six Pack Before 50. And today we have another fantastic, amazing special guest, Mr. Alan Leung. Let's just dive straight into this. And please, Alan, if you can introduce yourself and what you do.
Hi, Robert. Thanks for having me. So my name is Alan. I'm the founder and head coach of Olivebranch Fitness Consulting. It's basically a private consulting and personal training studio that was based in Shanghai. I'm now currently based in Chengdu in Sichuan. But during that time in Shanghai, I was training a lot of Fortune 500 clients in personal training, mostly focusing on strength and conditioning, losing fat, and just becoming healthier overall. I do also focus a lot heavily on nutrition and mental wellness. So yeah, that's a bit about me.
Awesome. Well, look, you've been one of my mentors really for as long as I can remember, and for that same
Too.
time, I've been trying to get a bloody six pack. So I think I just want to ask you really for yourself, and in terms of your journey, Alan, when was the first time maybe you were aware that you had a six pack, or when you said I'm ready to get a six pack?
Yeah. So I come from a very lean family. Genetically, we're all very lean, and so we don't hold a lot of fat. And look, as we were growing up, we're all pretty skinny and scrawny, and that was kind of like my profile for most of my childhood until puberty hits. And that's when you kind of start to exercise a lot more. Like we were, in the fields every 2 hours for 2 hours a day, just practicing either soccer, tennis. I played a lot of squash in my day, and so I started to see muscle forming, and then I started to see a six pack maybe around 15. And that's just due to, yeah, because I'm skinny, and then when you start to put on the muscle, we all have rectus abdominis, the six pack muscles. We all have it, whether it's hidden by a layer of fat or not, it's all there. So as you're skinny already and you start to build more muscle, it's just naturally going to pop out. And so around that age, I started to see it. And then I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. I'll do a couple of push-ups just to see what else can come out of it. But at that age, all you cared about was just sports anyways. You don't really care about physique. That's not really a thing back then. So yeah.
So having said that, I mean, I know you're a trainer, and as you we were talking before, you've constantly or you've almost all your life been relatively lean. So in that sense, I think that's another good point I just wanted to talk about. That obviously we're all different body shapes and different metabolisms. And I remember you were telling me, that there's different metabolism types. Maybe you can just touch on that since you've probably got one specific metabolism. I've certainly got another one. So it's harder. Can you explain maybe a little bit about that affects us seeing the six pack?
Okay, yeah. So this can be uh, broken down into more of a story. Okay, I think it's best for maybe your audience to understand getting a six pack as a journey, as a story, because a six pack doesn't happen overnight, as you well know. But it can get there relatively fast. You mean the story can be fast forwarded if you're doing all the right things very aggressively, like what you did during the Brawl in the Bund when you were boxing, right? You had like a month or 2 months window, 3 months
Pretty
to
much,
get
yeah.
radically into shape, right? And so you bust that tail to get trimmed down and to focus on your eating, focus on your training. And so really that is everybody knows the story on how to get a six pack, but it's the story that you want to really focus on. And so for people with a slower metabolism who put on more fat than people like me who have a higher metabolism, um, although we might have the same diet, the outcome will be radically different, meaning you're going to have more fat on you, whereas I'll probably just burn it right off. And that is unfortunately unfair. The funny thing is actually your metabolism is better suited for survival in the days when we were hunter gatherers, right? When food wasn't so plentiful. So having excess fat actually allows you to survive famine, survive starvation when you can't find food. And people like me, we would die out from starvation much quicker. It's only in current day society where we have too much calories and food, where we actually place more maybe value on aesthetics and body shape and looks. That's why we now prioritize a six pack. But that's actually not necessarily beneficial for survival if we were to be hunting and gathering in the wilderness, right? So actually you're more adapted for survival. It's only nowadays where we were chasing for that six pack, where we kind of flipped that genetic advantage on its head. And so you have to now work much harder to get lean, whereas I don't. And so that's where you have to first understand where you are in the metabolism spectrum, because it is a spectrum, it's a gradient. You can fall anywhere in between. So understanding where that is, and then not beating yourself up for not looking like a fitness model because you don't have the genetics for it. So you need to be, let go of that guilt that a lot of people might have for you to be able to do the work necessary for a long journey. It's a long journey to get that six pack because most people hold fat around their waist for the longest, and that's the last place where you're going to lose fat if you're on this journey. And so you have to be patient. You can't be, you can't expect things to happen that quickly, especially in the six pack area. Also, if you're a thick bone person or a thin bone person, that'll also contribute to it. So it's your metabolism, but as well as your overall body shape, what they call the somatotypes. And so a
Mm.
lot of people, as you know, are just built more like a tree trunk, versus people like me, like twigs and branches, where we're more slender, right? So that's another component to it, So those bigger, thicker bone people, endomorphs, they're not going to be as easy for them to see the six pack than ectomorphs who are skinnier. But of course, everybody will get a six pack if they are that determined. So even though you may be thick boned or slower metabolism, if you're that disciplined about it and that determined, you can still get a six pack. And we see it, unfortunately, throughout history through starvation, like photos of people who are starving and in parts of the area that are poverty stricken, or during times of war, you'll see people in extreme situations where they're just so hungry, naturally you can see everything. And
Mm.
even though they're slow metabolism or thick bone, it doesn't matter because you just have
Right.
nothing on you.
So with
It's doable.
metabolism, with your point on metabolism, and since you started with that, and we were kind of premising this in terms of that, is there any way one can increase, like someone like myself, is there
Yes.
anything that I can do to increase my metabolism to keep it up to your kind of level or standard for your body?
Yeah, so that's a very good question. And although you can't really change your genetic predisposition of your metabolism default level, let's say, you can still change the hormonal balance in your body by doing some key behavioral changes, which I'll get into in a sec. And thereby, you kind of mimic the effects of a high metabolism person. And so, number one, and probably the most important thing for people who are trying to get a six pack, is to build muscle. Just build muscle. Any form of high, fast twitch muscle that you can build will help you to increase your metabolic rate. And that's because building fast twitch muscle fibers allows your body to consume a lot more calories during your day-to-days. So when you're not working out, because you have more muscle on your frame, you're just going to be burning more calories. And by burning more calories, you're going to be consuming more of the energy in your body, slowly stripping down your fat. Slowly, slowly. It's like a constant drip, 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 drip. Whereas if you don't have as much muscle on your body, then you won't be consuming as much fat on your body. And so really that is the key to seeing your six pack, is to melt away all the fat on your abdomen. And like I said, that's usually the last place for people to lose fat. So if you can find more ways to burn fat, then that's the same as having a higher metabolism. Other ways is doing high intensity training, high intensity interval training. And so you're really pushing that heart rate to a very high degree. And this actually causes what's called an amplification cascade. So it's a hormonal reaction in your body where you're pushing the body so hard during your exercise that you're dumping tons of adrenaline into the bloodstream.
Right.
And what adrenaline does is that not just gives you energy, but what it does is it breaks down your glycogen, which is your stored sugar in your body, into glucose, which is the usable form of the sugar for your muscles to burn. Okay, so then this amplification cascade is actually like one molecule of adrenaline will start to set off hundreds of these enzymatic chain reaction, and each one of those will set off another 100. And so you have this exponential scaling effect where your body is very aggressively burning down glycogen, sugar from your body, thereby eventually tapping into fat burning. Okay, so that's why
Mm.
you want to be focusing on high intensity training. Um, and that's before or after, I would say, building muscle. Building muscle is number one. High intensity training is number two. And usually the way to build muscle is weight training. That's the best way. And that's also a form of high intensity training if you're doing weight training properly.
So muscle eats fat. Is that right? Could I say it in that way, kind of thing, or
You can, yeah,
helps
sure.
to
In a
eat fat
simplistic way, you
in
could say that. Yeah, yeah,
in a
sure.
simple way?
Yeah,
And then of course
yeah.
now, regardless, besides the HIIT or the HIIT classes you mentioned, is there anything in terms of? I mean, the reason why I asked this question is because I guess from my perspective, I'm not going to these classes all the time. Is there anything else I can do that will have a similar effect that is more, let's say, manageable or more, in my mind, attainable, that can help still
Yeah,
build that besides, without going to these, say, extremes on a weekly basis?
yeah. So yeah, you don't have to do an HIT class per se to get the benefits. You can also get that from just doing normal weightlifting in the gym. So that's also a form of high intensity. When I say high intensity, what I'm just saying is you're pushing yourself during that one set, one exercise, to your maximum ability. You
Mm.
know, we're not comparing here. We're not comparing your ability to like a professional athlete. You know, that doesn't matter. Your level doesn't actually matter. It's your effort level that really just matters. So if you're redlining at your whatever stage of your fitness level is, that's enough for you to be dumping adrenaline into your bloodstream because you're already like pushing yourself to the limit. Right? That's what adrenaline is for. It's when you're in kind of like in a situation where you're panicky and you need energy to survive, like a lion's chasing you. You got to run out of here or you have to fight for your life, right? That's when you have a huge dump of adrenaline in your system. And you feel that, you feel that sudden power surge. And that's the adrenaline working. And pain is blunted. You can push harder, more. You can lift more than you ever thought you could. And that feeling feels good, right? That high energy state feels good, but it's short lived and it will crash, which is also a hallmark of high intensity training. It's not for long durations. We're not talking about marathon running. We're not talking about endurance training right now. We're talking about short bouts of extreme intensity. Think about a 100-meter sprint. Well, that might be too short because that's like 10 seconds, right? Think about like a 400-meter sprint. That is an awesome way to lose fat. If you can find a track and just do 400-meter sprints, do 4 rounds of them, that can be your daily workout. Simple,
Right.
accessible, cheap.
Yeah.
Right? And you're gonna be in pain though. 400 meters is nothing to the most painful Olympic sport there is.
Can I ask you, would that still apply? Like, let's say I'm doing push-ups and let's say my maximum is, again, just an example, is 20. If I pushed it to 40, 50 and my adrenaline's pumping, would that equate to a similar adrenaline dump as you mentioned?
Yes, yes, yes. I would say yes, except that if you can do up to 40, 50 push-ups, it's getting on the too light side, or you're getting too strong for your body weight. And so you'll be getting the effects of high intensity, but the effects of muscle building will start to decline because you're heading towards more as muscular endurance and not so much of strength building, right? So to focus more on strength building, you have to make the resistance, the load, heavier
Mm.
for you, so that you don't exceed 2 minutes of working out. Right? A 2 minute set is already considered quite long. I try not to target anything above 90 seconds, a minute and a half. If you can go longer than that, then you're starting to get into endurance training, and that's not what I want. Right? I want to build maximum strength. And so, yes, you can do the push-ups, but eventually, when that gets too easy, then you'll still get the effects, right? You'll still get the effects of high intensity. You'll still get some effects of the muscle building, but it's going to be starting to get discounted as you continue. And so you might want to think about other ways to make it more challenging, like inclining,
Yes.
lifting your legs up like on a step, and then you can do. But those are now you're targeting different muscle groups. You're moving up more to the upper chest, shoulders, which is still fine, but it's not It's not exactly the same thing, but it's one way to make it harder and to keep the set duration below 90 seconds. You can also wear a weighted chest vest when you're doing push-ups to make it harder, right? So these are ways to increase the load to build more muscle. But
Got
of
it.
course, as long as you're going to failure or close to failure, you're still going to get the high intensity effect, um, the amplification cascade I was mentioning. Yeah.
Okay. So with that point, in terms of going back to the abs, if that's kind of like my focus, but also understanding all the muscle groups and everything aligns, and the abs, like the belly fat, it's the last thing to go. Is there any kind of main training regime or routine that you would recommend? I mean, is it about push-ups or is it just do sit-ups a lot? What would you say is the best way to really highlight those abs from what you do and what you've done?
So, actually, doing any form of training, like fitness training for a six pack, I would say is overrated. That's where a lot of misconception lies, is by doing crunches or core exercises like planks. Um, and that's because of your anatomy, the how your six pack is designed for a human body, the rectus abdominis, specifically
Mm,
these sheaths of muscles that run down
yes.
from your last rib into your pelvis, is a very thin sheath of muscle. It's very thin, right? And so if you train like any other muscle group as hard, like pushing it really hard, they're really going to grow from here to here. It's like barely noticeable, especially if you have this much fat covering it. Then growing your
That's
muscle
me.
this much when
Yeah,
you have this much fat
yeah.
is irrelevant. So why are you wasting all that time and energy doing something that is going to yield almost zero outcome for you? It doesn't make sense. So that's why I'm saying training the abs is overrated if your goal is for a six pack.
Got it.
Now, the best strategy, again, is still to melt the fat that's covering your six pack. This thick layer above it needs to go. And for that to happen, you have to just do all the right things. You have to watch what you eat, and we can go into the details if you want, but that's actually a much longer talk.
Right.
Um,
Okay. I was going to say yes, please, but yeah, no, no.
yeah.
Yeah, please continue. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
We can go into the specifics, or we can go high level, depending on how much time you want to spend on it, right?
Well, let's go maybe high
So,
level first. Maybe that's probably best for the viewers, since I know our time is limited.
okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, so for any fat loss strategy to work, you really have to focus on eating less than the day before, right? So as long as you're eating less and less and less, you're cutting calories, then your energy deficit. You have an energy deficit, and then your body will have to find ways to continue burning energy, and that's what your fat stores are for. It's stored energy for a rainy day. You're never going to get into your rainy day fund if you always have tons of income coming in, you know what I mean? Like food intake, calorie intake is always plentiful, then you never need to go into your fat stores, right? So that's why you have to limit your intake so that you're at a deficit, pushing your body to go to the fat storage in order for your fat stores to deplete, right? That's the only strategy that really works for any fat loss. The way you go about that is eating less. So we talked about maybe in the past thing, how why fasting works is because it really limits the amount of calories you're going to be
Yes.
intaking in the grand scheme of things, right? Remember, this is a journey. So one bout of fasting is not going to do anything for you if you're still eating a lot during your regular daily sessions when you're eating. It's got to be maybe planned so that you have fasting sessions regularly, or you can instead of being so extreme about it, you can just have intermittent fasting regularly, or time restricted feeding where you're only eating a certain number of hours per day and nothing else except for water outside of that. So just finding other strategies to limit your calorie intake can all work. They can all work. One meal a day, OMAD, that works too.
Hmm.
Or you can decide to limit foods that are high in calories, right? Like fast food. Fast food is known to be very high in calories. So that's why just eating clean, eating at home, cooking, a lot of people do very well losing fat if they just stop eating out, like including food delivery.
True, true. Look, I have a question. It could be a stupid question, and there's in terms
No,
of
no.
in terms of calorie restriction, there's been a lot of I've been also watching debates and stuff, and is it true or false? Like if I'm restricting my calories, does my body then also adapt to those restricted calories,
Yes.
making it harder then to, you know what I mean? If it's not just about
Yes.
cutting less. Yeah. What's your thoughts on that?
That's right. Yeah. That's completely backed by studies. It's true that as you are trying to lower your calories, your body tries to adapt to that by burning less calories. And so people have this, it's almost like an endless battle for them, and they can't seem to lose fat because their body just keeps, um, they start, their metabolism basically starts to lower itself. And that's why, and this is the key to stop this, is to continue doing the high intensity training. By continuing the weight training or the maintaining muscle mass, you can actually short circuit that biology process, right? So, because you're doing high intensity training, you're actually activating a much deeper nervous system in you, which causes a hormonal change in your body. It's this amplification cascade once again. When you're training so hard, you're basically sending a stimulus to your nervous system that your life is at risk right now, right? Like you're basically mimicking a lion is chasing you. That's what a 100-meter sprint feels like. Right? You're running for your life. And so when you do that, the adrenaline dump that happens in your bloodstream will not allow your body to lower its metabolism because then you will die. You'll get eaten by the tiger if you let up the gas pedal. And so that adrenaline that's in your body is what's needed to continue to be sending the testosterone up, to sending your cortisol levels up acutely, meaning temporarily, so that you continue to burn fat very aggressively, to burn the glycogen very aggressively. And so your body won't be able to hold on to fat because it's got nowhere to burn energy except for your fat stores. Except first you burn all the sugar, and then you're going to be your body's going to be looking to burn the fat if you're continuing to do the high intensity training, right? Your body won't allow you to just be sedentary and get swallowed up by the lion. And so that's why if you match the lower caloric eating habits, the behavior that you've changed in your nutrition, with the high intensity training, then you can continue to burn a lot of fat. Okay, so that's why they do come together.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
One thing to note, sorry,
Sure,
I do
please.
want to bring to your attention is that there are also studies that do show people who lose a lot of fat, especially very quickly, they tend to gain it all back and then some if they're not mindful about the long term. Remember, I mentioned in the beginning, it's all about the long term journey. And this is the swing, the seesaw effect. And that happens because your body wants to quickly get back all its lost fat. It's rainy day fund. It wants to get it back quickly. And so when we're talking about a fat loss for a long-term strategy, we really need to think about this as a lifestyle change, an identity change. You're changing who
Mm.
you are as an active person, as a healthy eating person, from the inside, right? This is who I am now. This is what I do. It's not just for a project. It's not just for this beach holiday that I'm going to, right? Because if you do that, you will definitely gain all the weight back and then some. So that's actually something you might need to keep in mind.
Great. Look, I want to talk about food, diet. I think it's and
Yeah.
how
Okay. Yeah.
important is food and diet in getting my six pack? Is it all about the exercises, or do I really need to consider food and diet as part of the package?
The diet definitely is probably the bigger of the two. If we're comparing fitness and nutrition, the nutrition or the diet is definitely more important. And like I said, it's all about losing the fat. And you can't lose the fat if you're eating more than yesterday. So first is the calories. the amount of calories needs to be less. That is, you can't argue with that. That's just the basic physics of it all. If you decide on choosing what types of food you're eating, now we're talking about the nutrient types, macronutrients like carbs, proteins, fats. Um, you just need to understand is that fats are usually quite high in calories, and protein isn't as high, and it's more satiating. So they each have their own kind of characteristics, if you will. And so if you want to dive into these details, it's like a rabbit hole. You can learn about nutrition for a long time and still kind of be confused. But in the end, if you just want to focus on the high level, um, there's a lot of low carb diet fads about how it can really help you to lose fat. And yes, it can if you're really extreme about it, like the keto diet. And that's because if you're very aggressively cutting out all carbs, then your body's going to switch to fat for burning only. It doesn't always work well for most people because they're just not very good at being fat adapted for energy consumption. And so it can work. It's just extremely, extremely difficult. And even with all my clients that I worked with, those who can do it, they do well on it. But most people can't just because it's not practical, especially in our day and life. But if you're that extreme about it, you can do that. A better strategy, an easier strategy, I should say, is to make sure you eat your proteins first, basically to build your muscles, as I mentioned, is a priority. Protein will help that in building muscle, but also it's very satiating. And so you won't want to eat much more after that. So if you have like a chicken and breast with pasta, if you eat your chicken breast first, you're actually going to be more full than if you had to eat the pasta first. You're going to still feel hungry. Thereby, you're going to end up eating more food in the same meal. But if you ate the chicken breast first, you might not eat much more after that. Okay, so it's a strategy that you can focus on. The fat, you definitely need some healthy fats in your diet in order just to be healthy. You can't cut out all fat. It's a misconception now that I hope everybody does know. Eating fat does not just make you fat. It's not that simplistic. And you should definitely not just cut out fat. If you do eat fat as well, that is also satiating, so you won't be as hungry if you eat the fat first. And I would focus more on it's a bit much bigger topic. Let's just say healthier
Part two.
fats
That's part two.
before we get
Part
into
two.
another.
Yeah.
That's part two.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Good. Good.
And so yeah, focus on more home cooking, so unprocessed foods that are high in fibrous foods like fruits and vegetables, they're going to make you again more full, thereby you eat less. Okay, so any strategy of what types of food you're going to be eating that helps you to eat less, I would say is the right strategy.
So, okay, speaking of food, we all have our moments of weakness or at least temptation, right? So, for you, what's your, say, go-to hack when you see something you want, be it a whatever, a chocolate donut or whatever it is, be it, what do you do to stop yourself from eating that food?
Yeah. So whenever I have something unhealthy in front of me, I usually have a little bit of a mindful moment where I will ask myself, I will reflect, how badly do I want this? I don't know if I'm
Yeah.
relatable, or if most of your audience member can relate with me. But this is actually what I do. In a split second, I will say, how badly do I really want this ice cream, right? And then I will also consider how much junk food I've had recently. It's like a very quick tally. It's like, okay, I had this already yesterday. I had that the day before. Oh, it's becoming a bad trend. I better not have it. All right. But if I say, oh, I haven't had one in like a few days or a week, then I think I can treat myself for one, and then I'll go for one. So it's a quick calculation in my head. How badly do I really want it, and how much have I had recently? And if I feel like it's something I can handle, then I'll go for it. And then when I do go for it, I have no guilt. I enjoy it. If I've made up my mind to have it, I'll enjoy it. I'll savor it, right? But if I decide that maybe it's not the time for me to have one now, then I'll just completely forget about it.
So do you
I just move on. So
do you count your calories in your head, or do you use an app, or what's your way, or is it because you've done this for so long, it's second nature?
No, I don't count calories, although I think it does work, as a lot of professional bodybuilders have attested to that. That's what they do is they keep a journal, and they are the prime examples of physique change. I don't because I have a pretty good idea of how much certain types of food can affect me, both health-wise, but also in terms of physique. And so I've mentioned this to you before. One of the best ways to track yourself is actually the mirror. If you just look at yourself, can you see, is your six pack as defined as it was before? Or if you don't have a six pack, is your midsection as lean as it was? And you can use that as a good gauge day to day if you're objective about it, which might be challenging for some people. But if you can just that's a very, very good way of just saying, oh my gosh, I'm letting myself go too much. So that's why I don't calorie count. It's just way too much effort. Um, and I don't have the time for that. I'm not a professional bodybuilder, so I do not care if I'm like 100 calories off here and there. In any case, always have the mirror to tell me if I'm heading in the right direction or not, and
Okay.
how your clothes fit. Right?
So the mirror and yeah, how the belly pops out or not when you put your shirt on, right? Something like
Right.
that.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, look, as we're coming.
Assuming your clothes don't stretch too much.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah, mine do sometimes. So look, as we get to the end of the podcast, I have a quick rapid fire questions, and just give me your first one word answer that comes to your head. Yep. Okay. So here we go.
Okay.
Okay. So the first one, crunches or planks?
Planks.
Okay. Which is harder for you to cut, carbs or sugar?
That's a trick question because sugar is a carb.
Fair enough. Yeah. But
So
you
it's
know
not
what I
really
mean.
fair. So of course carb is going to be harder. Carb is going to be way harder than
Okay. Okay. Carbs. All right. Next question. When do you train, morning or night? When's the best time for you?
for me. Can I say noontime?
Yes, you can.
Afternoon. Let's say afternoon.
Afternoon is the best time.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, what's one cheat meal that you'll never give up no matter what?
No matter give. Okay. Cheat meal. I'll never give up. Probably dim sum.
That's a big meal. Yeah, good. Fair enough. Oh, that's a good answer. All right, next question. Are you able to reveal, or would you like to reveal your body fat percentage at present?
Yeah, that's okay. I haven't had it checked in a while, but it's probably around 10% plus or minus one.
Okay, all right, cool. And what's one fitness myth that you want to kill forever? Like if, that people are talking about, but for you, it's just like a no way, Jose. Yeah.
You mean fitness myth generally speaking, or
Generally all
specifically
related
relating
to
to?
abs. I think both, or maybe
Okay.
abs, whatever you think. Yeah.
Um, building muscle is going to slow you down or make you inflexible, something like that.
Mm,
There's a lot of
yeah,
misconception around. There's a lot of misconceptions around building. I don't want to get too bulky. I don't want to get too muscly. Like this kind of misconception is
fair
really
enough.
harmful
Yes,
because we should all be striving to gain more muscle, and you won't lose your flexibility unless you train with low range of motion. If you train with full range of motion, you'll never lose that flexibility because that
fair
range is
enough.
always going to be there as you're training. So
Mm,
yeah,
mm.
I would not
Okay,
get too fixated on that.
okay. Next question. Is there one book, video, or mentor that you really aspire or
Hmm.
that's influenced you in your journey of fitness?
Yes, I would say in my earlier career, I really thought Dr. Doug McGuff, who's the author of Body by Science, really influenced me back then. It steered me in this direction, and although I might not prescribe 100% to his book anymore, the main principles I still do, and I think that was the most influential. So yeah, Dr. Doug McGuff.
Okay, good. Well, we probably try to maybe put the link below. I think there's maybe I'm sure people can get that on Amazon or something or eBay. Okay, and finally, what's your one message to everyone who's watching this? They're watching this obviously because they want to get a six pack. They're either in the process or dreaming of having one, like myself. What's your one message to them, to anyone trying to get a six?
Yeah, anyone can do it if you're just focusing on the long term. Don't be impatient. and just continue to work at it. Continue to work at it. You will get there eventually if you are that determined.
Okay, good. And look, FYI, tomorrow I'm going to ever get my first ever DEXA scan. I'm sure you'll be happy with that. And yeah, I booked it
Wow.
in.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I booked it in.
Let me
Doing it
know.
here in
Share
Sydney.
with me your results. Yeah.
I'm definitely going to
All
share the
right.
results with you and see. I can't wait. But anyway, let's see. So I'll have the results by tomorrow. Look, that concludes. I know you've raised your hand, and so we won't be doing the closing tradition. Not that there was one, but it's. But anyway, I appreciate your time with us, and I think there could be a part two, part three. I know we can keep talking about this, and it is really quite insightful to hear it straight from you, and I'm sure people will be really benefiting from that. So thank you,
Yes. My pleasure, Robert. Thank you. All the best.
thank you very much. All right, see you soon. Take care.
All right.
Bye bye.
Cheers, man. Good luck.
Thank you.